Hello, everybody. This is My Greatest Hits. I'm Giovanni Blanco, and this is my guest, Mr. Nick Libertore. The podcast where we get to know somebody a little deeper, a little go a little bit more extensively through their life, through the soundtrack of their life, the songs that kind of made them or were significant and got them here to my humble abode. Welcome, my brother. How you doing?
Thank you, sir. I'm great.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
The idea is that my guests will make a mixtape of 10 songs, their greatest hits. Not necessarily songs that they recorded, even though those can be included, but songs that are just special to them.
It's tough to get it down to 10.
I can imagine. We'd have 1,000 songs easily. Let's start right off with your number one. You Are the Sunshine of My Life by Stevie Wonder, but it's a special version.
Yeah, it's a version that my dad played with his band in the 70s. My dad was a drummer, and he played with a lot of amazing musicians in upstate New York and Syracuse. As he was playing long before I was here. But this is one of the awesome covers that they would do all the time, and they kind of did a special version of it, kind of up-tempo, jazzy type version of it.
It's all drums.
Yeah.
It's when I heard it, I was just like, oh, okay, Nick would have picked this even if it wasn't his dad.
It's true. I mean, my dad was definitely, a big jazz head. His favorite.
Gene Krupa.
Gene Krupa for sure. His favorite was Buddy Rich.
Buddy Rich.
Definitely had a bunch of his records, and like I say, but definitely looked up to him and his playing.
Yeah.
There was a version of his West Side Story medley that he did on one of his records. I think it's called Swingin' New Big Man, where my dad would he'd put the record on, and it got to this one point in it where he does this roll with just his left hand, and he picked the needle back up and just listen to that. So I right from the get-go came from a respect of the best,
Yeah.
And then these guys in his band, they were at one time called Prestige, at another time they were called Company, but they did this demo. I think the demo itself that this came out in 1980, but I mean they had been playing this song for years, I'm sure, since it came out. And it was really cool that they kind of did their own version of it. That's kind of something that I've kept with me, throughout my life of playing, is that when you're doing a cover, you don't necessarily have to do it exactly the way it was. You can kind of put your own stank on it, if you will.
Put your own stank on it. I mean, and a good song survives.
Yeah.
Like a different cover, it just survives like a different interpretation. If it's a good song, it can actually withstand any sort of genre change or feel or a vibe. Before we jump to the next song. Mm-hmm. Since you're a drummer, your dad's a drummer, how did drumming come about besides the obvious way, like you seeing your dad play?
I mean, it was, I guess, a lot of it was watching my dad play, but he had his kit set up in the basement all the time. And
was it a do not touch situation?
No, quite the contrary, actually. I can't remember when I first sat behind it, but at some point I started playing, to all my favorite records, and I had one of those old stereos with the giant speakers, and I'd set one on either side of the drum kit and crank it all the way up, and play along. And I would play for hours. And I've thought about this numerous times where, I would play so much and not once did I ever get a complaint from the neighbors, you know. You know, and I mean, like, we were like, you know, rural, you know, house to house kind of thing, you know, but like nobody ever said, I mean, my parents would tell me to shut the fuck up after a while, but you know, I mean, I would play to complete records and, you know, literally for just hours and hours and hours until they told me to stop. So, you know, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, I want to say like late elementary school, you know, into, you know, middle school and high school until I started playing in my own bands. You know, I mean, I just loved playing, you know. I think it was in the blood, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know,
became natural.
Yeah.
Let's jump to number 2. One thing, when Nick sent me his list of songs, and he sent a question before he sent the songs. He said, "Is it okay if they're really long songs?"
Yeah.
I was like, the length doesn't matter. Number 2 is Dogs by Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Pink Floyd was the first band that I would say was like my own. You know, I was exposed to a lot of music, you know, when I was a young kid through my parents, through my dad playing, you know, and then there was a lot of music just like in the house being played. And I mean, so, you know, that was, you know, a lot of like Chicago and Blood, Sweat and Tears, you know, Sergio Mendes, Al Jarreau, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, like all that type of stuff. Pink Floyd was the first band that I kind of discovered on my own, you know, and
mine.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly not something that my parents were going to be into, you know, and you know, and there was just something about them, like, and I think, you know, Roger Waters especially, like his voice and his lyrics were just so like dark and ominous, you know, and like
commanding.
Like dangerous, you know. You know, it was just something that I was drawn to, you know, pretty young.
Do you remember what the gateway song or album was?
I do remember listening to The Final Cut when I was a kid, and that record, before I even really knew like exactly what he was singing about, just the, you know, the pain and anguish in his voice, you know, I was just drawn to, you know. It just was like really moving, you know, and I you know, I don't think that was the first record I ever heard, but it was the first one that kind of like made me realize like, oh, this is something special, you know.
Yeah.
And it was also the first band that you know, and this has carried on forever since then, but it was the first band that I had to have every record. I had to know like everything about, and all the solo albums, and like, you know, anything connected to them, you know, I had to collect, you know. And that's happened ever since. Any artist I've ever gotten into, it's just like, you know, I'm not satisfied with like just this one song or this one record. It's like, you know, if something hit me about that artist, like I have to know everything they've ever done. You know, so it leads to having a lot of CDs or records or whatnot. But
for me, it's one of those things that I you know, I got hit with Pink Floyd still living in the States, because before I moved to Dominican Republic, the Wall was out, so it was so popular on radio that I didn't know the album. I just knew the song "Another Brick in the Wall."
Yeah.
But when I moved to Dominican Republic, I had a neighbor, well, kind of a neighbor, someone who lived in the neighborhood, who was considered like a music freak, and he had a bunch of records, and they called him the Wizard in the neighborhood in Spanish, El Mago. And he played that album, The Final Cut, to me, and I was kind of entranced by the theatrics, the sort of like the drama.
Yeah,
it's like whoa, and you know, nothing compared to the stuff in the Wall, right? Like, but it's still kind of like, it's such a stark story, and but you know, for 13-year-old, 12-year-old hearing it for the first time, and being forced to listen to that album, like this guy was just like, no, you gotta listen to it. You can't listen to, it's gotta be the whole thing,
right?
And then living in Dominican Republic, I never got the chance to see Pink Floyd or whatever. But when I moved back to the States in the late '80s, one of the first concerts I ever saw was I was just like, Roger Waters came through Connecticut, Hartford, and with Radio Chaos.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
And it was such an amazing show.
Yeah,
and I think he had Jim Ladd.
Jim Ladd was part of it. Yeah,
yeah. Just Jim Ladd. I was like, like a little DJ booth on the stage, and it was this whole thing. And it was just like, I fell in love with the whole, and of course it's so almost low key compared to a lot of the other Pink Floyd productions, but it was such a cool theatrical experience.
Yeah. I've always been a huge fan of Roger Waters' writing. He seems to be able to tap into something that's just like really deep and moving. And I know a lot of people know his story about his father dying in the war and all that type of stuff. And I mean, like, you carry that stuff throughout your life, like I say, when I was a kid, I didn't even understand all of that yet, but something about the way that he was presenting that was just deeply moving, so I took that and then, went back, all the way to the beginning, the Syd Barrett era, and even that story is, kind of dark and ominous, with him kind of losing his mind and getting into his solo records and kind of listening to Madcap Laughs and just kind of hearing somebody losing their mind on record is intense, It
is intense, and I think it left a scar on the rest of the band.
Absolutely.
So before we move on, let's talk about the song itself.
Yeah, because
it's kind of. Is it the longest piece of that? No, it's not. Is the other one? We won't get to it, but it's got a lot of chapters and a lot of things to it. And I was listening to it, and one thing struck me that was kind of interesting: how he was able to kind of write the bulk of the material for the band, right? Roger Waters, but how he just easily handed off the singing and the guitar stuff to David Gilmour, and that's the stuff that sonically stays with you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, like in a weird way that emotionally and like spiritually, Roger Waters is like the heart behind everything, right? But it's odd to me, not odd, but cool that he seeded this sort of like, you sell it. This is my message. You sell it, and it's like he only sings like that one part in that whole piece, and then it's all David Gilmour.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's also a lot more acoustic. Like I was kind of surprised by the acoustic elements of it. Like the parts that were a little bit more mellower.
I mean, I guess there has to be some sort of trust there. When you're writing things that are so personal, that you trust in the fact that the rest of your bandmates are going to take it and do something that's going to kind of fulfill that vision. I mean, when you've got David Gilmour in the band, of course, that's going to happen. But I mean, to have somebody who can, as you say, sonically kind of take those words and, and those thoughts and represent that in his guitar solos and his guitar tone, all that type of stuff is, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what luck to have, somebody who, could write those words and somebody who could, write that type of music. There's a line in that, when I was a kid, that always stuck out. The how's it go? You've got to be trusted by the people that you lie to, so that when they turn their backs on you, you get the chance to put the knife in. When I was in high school, I was like, oh man, that's definitely a certain outlook.
It stays with you.
Yeah,
it stays with you. This was their 10th album.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And it was just basically between the sort of the heyday of The Wall and Dark Side, right? It's just like it's in between. It was just like a received mixed reviews and not as strongly as everything before and after, to be honest. But
yeah, it was another grand concept, that idea of the animal farm thing and kind of dividing society into pigs and sheep and dogs, but I thought it worked. I mean, it hit me, especially when I was younger. But I mean, I do think that's a record that kind of represents them kind of at a height.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously can't doubt how amazing The Wall is, but The Wall was definitely when Roger Waters was kind of full force taking over of the band, and I mean he did something amazing. But
it's if you have to say, it's like the first of their big concept albums, right? Like, because it's like they played with the concepts before, or like the idea of it, but I feel like that's the first album that's like, no, this is like this whole thing that's really solid. This thing that's like
right.
And then like it repeated for the few albums after until he left.
Yeah.
I want to say one last thing about this album. My first visit ever to England when I was younger, I will never forget my first weekend in London, and I ended up staying at this hotel that was like outside of town and whatever, and it was just like, oh, we're giving you the top floor view, whatever. I'm like, okay, cool, this is awesome.
Yeah. And
I went to it was me and a couple friends, and we went up to the top and whatever, and we looked outside, and I said, Jesus Christ, this looks like the Animals Pink Floyd cover.
Nice.
It was just like factories and all like dark and gray, and there's like smoke everywhere. I was just like, wow, this is England.
Do you know if it was near where they?
I don't know.
They shot it.
I don't know, but it to me it was just like, especially when you get into London and you see everything, and it's like so. Everything in London seems so like compressed together. Like there's so many different neighborhoods and areas that are just like very much like New York, I guess. But it was weird to get outside a little bit and then see the sort of like all the apartment buildings and all this sort of, but it was crazy. It was crazy. It gave me like a little sense of where this sort of darkness comes from.
Yeah, totally.
A little bit.
I've read a thing about how when they shot the album cover and they had the pig flying, that the pig actually got away from them and had to be shot down. So there's that.
Yeah, all right, so number three is, let's see. Oh, number 3 is Supper's Ready.
Speaking of long songs.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is this one kind of encapsulates a lot of different things and a lot of different loves. I first discovered Genesis actually through I had an aunt and some cousins who were big Genesis fans, and excuse me, they
were they fans of like old school Genesis?
Old school.
Wow.
Yeah, like the 70s prog stuff. So they were the ones that kind of first, were like, hey, check out this record, because I mean, I knew later stuff. I obviously knew Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins solo stuff, but I didn't know that they all worked together when I was a kid. And and this is definitely when I was still kind of discovering music and what could be done with music, as a drummer, and particularly when I was playing along to records, because I mean, I was obviously playing along to like The Who and Zeppelin and
AC/DC,
all sorts of like classic rock stuff. But I mean, the progressive rock stuff was definitely the next level of.
Like, I believe that there's a piece in this that's something in 8/9.
Yeah, Apocalypse in 9/8.
Yeah. 9/8. Yeah. It's like, I'm like, oh, they just say it in the title. How fun this is going to be the drum.
Yeah. And I mean, this. I mean, I became a full-fledged like prog rock fanatic. So I mean, I've loved Genesis and Yes, and all sorts of Infusion too. Like Mahavishnu and all that type of stuff. Bands that kind of pushed the limits of music because it was fun. It was fun to learn and fun to play along to. But Genesis is kind of the big one for me for a lot of different reasons. One, as a drummer, I mean, people who don't know Phil Collins as a drummer, I mean, the stuff he was doing in the 70s is insane. I mean, he's hands down one of my absolute favorite drummers. He stands right up there with like all the fusion cats, and
all the greats too. I mean, it's like he never gets mentioned. It never gets paired with the with the Bonhams of the world.
It's sad because I say sad. I mean, he's had an amazing career.
Yeah,
but
I mean, the other side of it is,
but
he owned the '80s, but
right. But I mean, as a player, like he was a motherfucker. He was a badass in the '70s, and and I mean, you listen to any Genesis record in the 70s, and he also was part of a fusion band called Brand X. I mean, if you don't know anything about that, look up Unorthodox Behavior, look up Moroccan Roll. I mean, those records are mind-blowing.
A lot edgier as far as like not so theatrical as more they're like kind of almost borderline futuristic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too because I've seen, I've read articles where Phil Collins talks about how he liked Brand X because Brand X allowed him to kind of stretch out more as a player, which like is so funny to me because in the 70s in Genesis, I mean, like, you couldn't push music much further than that, but I know what he's saying is that, like, with Genesis the music was very structured. There was parts that you had to play, where Brand X was very improvisational. So, so I get that. But all that to say that, I mean, Phil Collins was just an amazing, amazing drummer. And his feel, there was just something about his feel, which, I mean...
And I feel like that's another thing to say about his drumming is that I feel like one of those things that when he came into the 80s, he had matured, that he'd kind of laid back in his playing style.
Yeah.
And that layback of his playing style was kind of like a hard-hitting, like just, but groove-based, always like, I mean, I just think of all those iconic songs from the 80s, and it's like they had crazy drum fills, all of them. And, even when they were, even in the late 80s, Land of Confusion and stuff like that. I was just listening to it the other day and just going, I know this is like a lot of this is programmed and weird, but it's like there's playing on top of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the feel is still there.
Yeah.
That's what I mean is whether he's playing crazy stuff or whether he's, playing kick, snare.
Yeah.
There's a feel to that like, is uncomparable.
He drives.
So, so there's Phil Collins, and then Peter Gabriel to me. Peter Gabriel is one of my favorite artists ever, from the Genesis era to like all his solo stuff. I mean, he's just an amazing, like uncompromising artist, uncompromising to his vision of things, and all the, the different phases and experiments he's done and all that type of stuff. I mean, just brilliant writer, another brilliant lyricist, has just done all sorts of amazing work. And taking it right back to the early Genesis days with the things that he was doing with costumes on stage. And
I mean, I read about this song, and this is 23 minutes long.
Yeah.
And they said that it was like one of the first songs or the first pieces that allowed him to go change and come back in different costumes on stage within the song.
Yeah.
Where before that he would just disappear and come back, but this was like they within the song he would have costume changes and I wanted to ask you a question about this song. You go like, why did you pick this song in particular? And was there a specific incident that you remember that brings you back to this song, or is it just something that you over the years you kind of just always stuck to this one?
I mean, I think that this song is. I think this song is probably the best example of progressive rock in the sense of, a piece of music that, presents itself in a lot of different movements and a lot of different dynamics. I spent a lot of time as a kid trying to figure out all the things that are going on in that song, how to play along to it, and and the theatrics in it. Like, I feel that Genesis kind of did it best. There was a lot of bands that played in wacky time signatures and did all sorts of wacky stuff that, like, was fine, but like wasn't like as heartfelt.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like some bands I don't know, and bands that I love, I think of like Uriah Heep and other things like this, where for some reason when they got to that level of theatrics, it felt like the theatrics were the thing and not the song.
Right.
Like the song got lost or a little bit, or it was the kind of stuff that inspired Spinal Tap.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think.
Stonehenge. It's like that's the worst of prog rock. Like, basically, right. Like, the not the worst. It's still extremely enjoyable and fun, but it these guys kind of like just distilled it in a way that it everything was working together. Right.
Yeah. It didn't. In my mind, it didn't tread on the verge of like silliness.
Mm-hmm.
Although there was silliness in it, but it was like silliness for a reason. So I think the theatricality of it was still, it's not something where I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I can't watch that.
No. It seems like it was just the way they had to deliver it. It wasn't a thing, an afterthought. It was like, this is the way it needs to come out.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. I mean, there's like, I read something about how there was a section in the song that was supposed to be just a piano solo.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Gabriel started singing over it.
Right.
And Tony Banks was like, no, this is the solo part.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he went back into the control room and heard it with the music, what he was doing. And he was just like, damn, no, this is good.
Yeah.
You gotta keep this.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tony Banks is another one. I mean, Tony Banks, like, is Genesis to me. I mean, the melodies that he wrote, and I mean, he wrote a lot of lyrics too, very heartfelt lyrics. The things that he did. I mean, I think if you have a great keyboard player, you have a great band.
I would say a great drummer. Band, but
that too, for sure. But I mean, if you're going to have a keyboard player, you better be good. I think so. But yeah, that song. I mean, if anybody was to say, well, what is progressive rock, I'd give them that song.
23 minutes of pure Genesis gold.
Yeah.
Supper's ready. There's another thing that I read too that I remembered. That's a part of it. A section was inspired by Peter Gabriel's wife.
Yeah.
You should explain it better. Like,
I forget the whole story myself, but the whole
she's basically she was like speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
And like, and saying all this like devil stuff, and
he saw her face as something different.
He formed a cross with two things, and he's
just
like,
and the whole idea of the song, it was kind of this like good versus evil kind of thing. Yeah. And and I mean,
New Testament.
So much of that can end up like coming off very ridiculous if it's not something that's that you're expressing in some kind of pure way. And I think that like Peter Gabriel just had a way of doing that.
It's insane. I mean, it's like the whole story. This couple, this man and a woman, and then they turn into something else, or turn into another man and woman, and then they encounter. I mean, the devil along the way. I mean, it's like the 666 part, like the whole thing that he screams the whole 666 thing.
Yeah.
But then in the end is the whole thing about is it a goat that's like eating cereal with like honey and milk, and he's just happy that it's the same amount. It's like the perfect amount of honey and milk in the cereal. It's like really like I was reading about this. I was like listening to the lyrics going by. I'm just like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I mean the imagery, again, it's like in anyone else's hands, I think that would come off as just like absolutely ridiculous. But there's something about the way Peter Gabriel presents things, where his symbolism and his imagery can be so far out there, and I still can like take it serious. I know he's saying something.
Yeah.
Like I know that there's meaning behind what he's saying, even if sometimes I'm just like, what? But like, he's not doing things just to be ridiculous. There's a point behind it,
and it's all cohesive. So like musically, especially musically, it doesn't sound like it's a different band playing each section. It sounds like it's one band doing everything slightly different for this section. A little breakdown here, we go crazy here, a little timing thing, whatever, piano solo, him singing,
Yeah.
But it's all kind of. It doesn't ever break. It doesn't ever feel like, oh, this is completely not. You know what I mean? It feels natural, like a weird, like a whatever. It's like it works.
It was another just great formation of people, just incredibly talented people and talented players, and they've talked over the years about how kind of when Phil Collins joined the band, he was kind of the outcast because he was much more loose about things. Like the rest of them were very kind of proper brought up and, took themselves very seriously. And, Phil kind of came in and was just like, hey guys, let's go, rock and roll, but.
It's like a little dirty hippie.
Yeah. So he kind of like shook it up. But I mean, that was the perfect, addition to that group. I just think just incredibly talented people, and I see that with, Genesis. I see that with Yes. Like there's such incredibly talented people individually and then together as a group, because like if you look at those groups, they all went off and did solo records and did other projects, and the want and need to like continue to express and write new material. It was like I don't see that anymore. In the way that
not in commercial or necessarily major label released material,
right?
That it was common back then. It wasn't necessarily the most popular thing, but it was definitely like something that these bands toured and were super popular on as far as like people wanted to see them, buy the records, and they just had legacies of releasing these albums after album of concept and. They had serious runs.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing to just see somebody be continually creatively inspired to do something. To take it to all these different angles and everything, but just that idea that they kept writing. To me, it's I wish I had that inspiration to be writing all the time. It seems like it just came natural to them. So yeah, just a lot of respect to all those people.
Number 4, Lipstick Vogue by Elvis Costello and
the Attractions.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a friend who had a cassette. It was like a best of Elvis Costello and the Attractions, and it was stuff from My Aim Is True up to Blood and Chocolate. And that was the first time I heard any of his stuff, and I mean every song I was just like, this is amazing. So as I went back, the first real record I heard was this year's Model. And just what an incredible amphetamine driven, like fucking like incredible band, incredible songs, insanely incredible lyrics. Just what an amazing record. So this is one of like many favorites on that record. But I mean, you know, just the drum intro on that, you know.
That's, I mean, it's, I love this record, and if I had to do like an order of my favorites, this would probably be in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
But listening to it today again, I was just like, oh yeah, this is why Nick loves this record. It's like, it's the most feral drumming on, it's like,
yeah. Pete Thomas, man. I mean, he's great. You know, I think he's very underappreciated in the rock world. You know, I mean, I think everybody in that. This is another.
They're just so
band
together.
And
the sound that they had, that organ sound, you know, the sort of the kind of I would like put kind of like very kind of quick on a dime, and kind of you know, but also economical. You know, they weren't songs that were like I'll play their stay, whatever, out like to stay too long. They just
they're very quick in and out, you know, but so much happening, you know, within like 2.5-3 minutes, you know. And I mean, another prime example too of keyboard player Steve Naive, like you know, starting off with like the new wave, the Wurlitzer, you know, like that sound, you know, which is like hip at the time and everything, but I mean, if you listen to throughout his whole career, I mean, Steve Naive was Elvis Costello's right-hand man. I mean, like everything he did, because Elvis, you know, every time he went into a musical genre, he went deep, you know, and like really learned, you know, everything there is to know about a genre, and then like spit it back out, which like blows my mind. Like everything from the, you know, country and jazz and soul and like, you know, all the different things that he's done. When he does it so well. But
I think not to sound too vulgar, but I think that the proper word that you said was spit, because it's like he doesn't reinterpret it. It's like he gobbles it up, chews it, and he just spits out chunks of it at a time. Yeah. And what he spits out is just like pure gold, and it's just so he finds a way to put his take on these things, and it's still kind of like, even at his, you know, as he gets older and he's you know, he kind of leans more melodically and he does more sort of beautiful things, like some of the things that he's done in the last 20 years. It's still kind of very much like these sort of candy bar treats of whatever the thing is, and it's just all messed up. Like the ingredients are all messed up, but it's just so tasty and so like satisfying. I mean, the, you know, like I say, musically speaking, just, you know, incredible how deep he goes into every genre. I mean, lyrically is a whole other story. I mean, you know, he's probably my favorite lyricist. I mean, just the double and triple entendres constantly. You know, all the double meanings and everything he says is just, you know, it's cool to write one song where you have, you know, words that mean different things and all that type of stuff, but he's made a career out of it. He definitely, you know, has. And it's another one of those things where, like, in someone else's hands, it could be completely silly, but I mean, he's just so brilliant with everything he says, you know. I mean, it's like there's a certain edge to it, like there's a certain nastiness that's kind of you know, it just, I feel like there's angst. There is this sort of, there's always like a hint of revenge in his stuff. Like, you know, like a weird kind of like, oh, this sucks, but I'm gonna get back at you kind of vibe.
Absolutely.
Like it's like a lot of like this one in particular. Like I had to bring up the lyrics, but the I love the first verse. Is like, don't say you love me when it's just a rumor. Don't say a word if there's any doubt. Sometimes I think that love is just a tumor. You've got to cut it out.
Ugh, it's so good.
Damn. Yeah. And then the part where he says the human part, where he goes, you know, sometimes I almost feel like a human being. Sometimes I feel almost like a human being. Like I almost feel like a human being.
I like
it's
the
such
part
a,
too
like,
where
everyone can relate to that. Like,
oh
you're
yeah,
just like so deep in your darkness, and then like you just feel like a little bit like sometimes I feel like I'm not all bad.
Yeah. I love the line too, the little cut, like, you say I've got no feelings, this is a good way to kill them. It's like, oof, that's so good. So good.
Yeah, I mean, and this album, I mean, I love this album. This album has one of my top 3 favorite Elvis Costello songs. And it's not necessarily, if I had to rank them by, like, what I think the best are, this wouldn't be in there, but it's one of my favorites because it's one of the ones that I heard as a kid, like really young. When this album came out, I had a chance to hear it because of a neighbor who played it.
Yeah.
And I loved this song. Like I'd always, like as a kid, like I was like 8 years old, I would always be like, play that song again, play that song again. It was Little Triggers.
Oh yeah.
And it's like I always think that song kind of like almost like affected me vocally.
Oh
the way
yeah.
he sings that song.
I can hear that.
Triggers.
Oh totally, yeah.
I love that. But moving on, man. This is such an interesting list. Number 5, we go to The Cure, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And number 5, where is it? I got it here somewhere. Oh, here we go. From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea.
Yeah, this was, I think a lot of what I was listening for in music when I was younger was specifically tuning into the drums. Until I hit a certain age, and until I had a friend of mine. I was in a band called the Mood Circle in middle school, maybe early high school, with my friend Joel, who I still play with to this day. But our friend Roger from that band let me borrow his copy of The Cure Wish on cassette. And he's like, you've got to listen to this song, From the Edge of the Deep Green Sea. And I put it on, and that just set me off in a different direction when it came to what I was listening to in music. The Cure since then has become one of my absolute favorite bands ever. There's not another band that I can think of that sets tone, that sets mood, that another like incredible lyricist. Everything about them was just like how I felt, what was going on in my head at the time. Yeah, I mean they're just a band set apart, in my head for what they convey.
They created a sound.
Yeah.
They created a sound and a vibe that only they, do best, and been a million copycats since, and I also feel like they've been able to do different styles of things and still remain kind of like The Cure, like where they don't feel like they're aping or copying anything. They've been able to do that, and I also feel like this particular era, like Disintegration, Wish, like this.
It's kind of the classic era of the band for sure. Like that lineup of the band was, in my opinion, I think in most people's opinion, is probably the best lineup of the group. They perfected the idea of writing a song where they write kind of simple melodies, but there's like 5 or 6 of them stacked on top of each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That creates this wall of sound that is just, it's like a warm blanket,
Yeah.
And nobody expresses loneliness like Robert Smith, and and that was certainly something I connected to, as a kid growing up, which is funny because Robert Smith has been with his high school sweetheart forever, which is an interesting point. I think that the idea that us as artists, we can still use our we can still use our imagination, but B, we can also kind of see and feel what other people are going through as well, and he had a way of expressing that I think so many people connected to.
What is it about this song and The Cure that makes you feel like you as a person or your lived experience reflects the most?
I mean, there's a lot of longing in in what he was expressing, and for a long time, when I was younger, I was, I don't know, not to get depressing, but I was alone for a long time.
Yeah.
And
we were also different era, latchkey kids, just or being both parents worked or whatever, or different things, and you were kind of left to your own devices. And
but I mean, I think there's like a beauty in that, like longing for whatever that is, longing for something better, be that a partner or a better situation in your life. There's a beauty in that, and there's a connection in that. I've always said that, like, I feel that people who express their sadness or their loneliness or whatever, like, there's still hope in that. You're still
expressing. You're still
when
like
you still
reaching
express
out.
it.
You're still like trying to. You're still yearning for a connection. It's when that dies is when you.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
You don't care.
Yeah. So that's it came at the perfect time for me. Where I was feeling certain things, and like I felt a connection to that, and I felt that they Robert Smith and band expressed that in a way that I connected to, I guess, the most.
Now we go to number 6, or first song on side B, if you're flipping the cassette or the album. An Appointment by the band called City by Sea.
Mm-hmm. This was a band I was in the early 2000s, right before I moved out to LA.
Where was it again? Where did you go out?
Syracuse, New York. This was a band that kind of evolved out of another band I was in called Anodyne, which I guess the last lineup was myself, Alicia Delios, who's the vocalist and songwriter, Sean Grimes, who was the bass player, and then in Anodyne we had my friend Ryan Fitzsimmons, who played guitar. Ryan had left to go to school at a certain point, and we kind of kept going, and we formed this band called City by Sea, which Anodyne was kind of straightforward type songs, and I always like to think that my progressive influence kind of seeped into Alicia's songwriting, because City by Sea became more we had a term for it. We called the band Frogmo, which was folk progressive emo, because the band was it was Alicia playing acoustic and singing, and then Sean on bass, me on drums, but Alicia started writing these songs that were a lot of like 5s and 7s in the way that she strummed, mm-hmm. Which I think just was like a natural thing, because we never sat down and were like, we should write something wacky, but the intro of this song is funny, because it starts off with a beat that I'm playing that's kind of like a fast 7 beat, mm-hmm. And a lot of times when I would play with people, they'd be like, "No, just play a beat. We'll do something." And I stole this beat from Phil Collins. It was one of these beats that he would play in old school Genesis tunes. But But it's like a little wacky. It's like, you know. So when they're like, play a beat, I'm like, do something with this. But
you can just think of Janet Jackson saying, "Give me a beat," and you're like.
All right, don't do that.
Actually, you know what? I don't want to miss out on something. There was something that I wanted to say about that Cure song.
Yeah.
Because one of the most interesting things that I found out while I was reading about the album Wish and how they were recording, that I didn't know that Robert Smith, in preparation for each album, he would create mixtapes for the band to listen to. And songs that he was obsessed with at the time.
Yeah.
And that he would like try to want to reach, and he would say not to copy the sound, but copy the essence. And for Wish, there were only 2 songs, and one was a band called Charterhouse. I think this
Chapter House.
Chapter House, and Human by Human League.
Oh wow!
Song, I'm only
yeah,
human.
yeah.
He said he was obsessed with that song, and it's just like it's so strange to me because it's like you never know where people are grabbing things from. But going back to this,
well, can I?
See.
Tell me. I'd like to say just because you brought that up and brought up Chapter House, The Cure was kind of my start into bands with that kind of wall of sound. Like I said, there's lots of different melodies stacked on top of each other, but that eventually led me to all the great shoegaze bands. Stuff like Slow Dive and My Bloody Valentine and Lush and all that type of stuff. It started with realizing what The Cure did. They created this sound. Like I say, it's just like a warm blanket of sound. And that alone creates a certain...
It's a flange
feeling. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I just love that type of music, where it's just this wall of beautiful noise,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So going back to this song, there's An Appointment. It starts with that crazy drum beat with the guitar kind of going freely above it, like just kind of swaying, and then it kind of falls into this area, like it just falls into this other part where it's just like drops.
Yeah.
What was the kind of the thought behind that?
I mean, that I think that's where Alicia originally started the song. So it goes from that kind of crazy fast 7 beat into a 5. She starts playing the and that a lot of the stuff she was writing then, like I say, there was never kind of a sit down of like, we're gonna play something wacky. I think that she just kind of started falling into these rhythms that were like, 5s and 7s, just the way she would strum the guitar. But I mean, came up with all sorts of cool rhythms and textures and stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, she was another one that was just like brilliant lyricist, brilliant voice. But it's funny because to me, the way I always learned, I'm 100% like an audio learner, so to me it was like learning the feel of the rhythms, and then like once we learned the song, I could go back and be like, oh, that's in 5,
like count.
Yeah. But initially coming off of that, like I'm just like like I learned everything just by hearing it, and then to go back to it, like I think we were kind of all that way, where we would I've heard Soundgarden was the same way, actually.
Oh, really?
Where like they would write these songs in like wacky time signatures, and it was just like, I don't know, that's just what I write, so it wasn't setting out to do anything wacky. It was just what was coming out at the time.
The song, when was the song recorded?
2000. 2002, I want to say.
My first impression of it was like it reminded me of Jeff Buckley, like the Grace album. Like it just reminded me of that sort of like where it was the guitar playing was just like lush and kind of like, but it was just, there were these edges to it, like the drumming, the it felt more rock, heavy, but her voice and the guitar playing just made it more like angelic, more kind of lush and more, I don't know, prettier.
Yeah. It always blew my mind because, she would say, and this wasn't always the case, but when I first started working with her, I'd be like, like, who are your favorite artists? She's like, I don't really listen to music much. Just like, what? How are you coming up with these songs? Like, where's your, that's divine intervention then or something, but yeah, I always wanted both of them to move out here, Alicia and Sean. I tried for a long time to get them to move out here, and they're.
What was 2002 Nick up to?
2002 Nick was hoping that City by Sea was gonna get a record contract and go on the road, I think. It was a really it was kind of a sad thing when I decided to move out here, because I really, really loved that band, and I loved those people, and I really just wanted to keep working with them. But I realized at some point that like we all kind of had different things that we wanted to do, and to me, and on top of that, as I say, I was playing in a band with Joel. Joel had moved out here before I did, and
so, dude, you gotta come out here.
I mean, kinda, yeah. Like he called me and he was like, dude, let's put the band back together. And at the time, aside from like playing, I was like stocking shelves at a grocery store. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll move out there and lose all my money and I'll go home. And that was
stock a grocery store in Hollywood.
Yeah,
that's the worst that can happen.
I mean, that was 21 years ago
That's
now.
Right.
So, and I've had all sorts of amazing experiences out here. So, it was definitely the right decision. So
I believe so, man. It brought you to me, so I'm happy about that.
Yes, indeed. Oh, I want to say too that I've had this thought numerous times, but whenever we're playing, and doing different projects where we're playing cover songs, like I feel such a kinship to my father, because that's what he did. That's and there's every once in a while there's a song in the set that like he would play too. So I just like I feel that connection, and I love that, and I thank you for that.
Baseball players do when they're
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Number 7, joining a fan club, Jellyfish.
Jellyfish. Yeah. That Jellyfish was another revelation. Getting into like the power pop scene.
Did you discover them when they just come out, or was it after?
It was just slightly after. Because Spilt Milk was already out. But I had a friend who had known about them, and it was Jellyfish and Jason Faulkner and the Greys, and all the kind of family of that started from.
What was the other band like the?
Oh yeah,
it was something else, right? It was like more of a glam.
Imperial Drag, yeah, it was one of Roger Manning's other projects.
Just like right after, so it was like right after it was like the Greys, Jason Faulkner, the Imperial Drag, and then a while after, like Licorice. Was it Licorice Quartet?
Oh yeah. A while after that, they were doing that during COVID.
Yeah. I remember Manning also released those Moog albums.
The Moog Cookbook.
Moog Cookbook.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I mean they, and all of it starting from Jellyfish. I mean, just blowing my mind. Like, another kind of example of like sound, like all the different things that they were doing. I love a record that is like full of different sounds, and I mean, they were just masters of it. I always told people that, if you like a mixture of the Beatles and Queen, you're gonna love Jellyfish. I mean, it's all the, melody and harmony, like stacked on top of like, just like all these different things going on. They just threw the kitchen sink into like every song, but in a pop structure.
They loved pop music. I mean, they respected the idea of like the songcraft of classic pop songs.
Yeah.
And production,
Right.
And to have that, I always remember the 1-2 punch of like Lenny Kravitz's first album and Belly Button like a year after or something like that. I was just like, it just stood out so fucking hard in that landscape of like 1989, 1990, where everything was already like, processed to death, and it was just, production was just shit and whatever. I mean, it wasn't whatever we should. And there was grunge. There was like stuff that was still kind of popping up rock wise.
Right.
But it was a new sound.
Yeah.
This shit sounded like 1978.
Right.
Or 1971 or whatever. And it's like, and those are the records that we kind of grew up with. So to hear something new, like I'll never forget that. Like those two records, like Lenny Kravitz's first record and Belly Button. But then when Split Milk came out, it was just like, those guys just outdid themselves.
It's true. I mean, I at first wanted to pull something from Belly Button just because A, that was the original lineup. B, just to mention Jason Faulkner, who wasn't on Spilt Milk, but yeah, like Spilt Milk just like upped the ante. Like everything
it's on steroids.
they could think of. But it's exactly that. It's it's the love of pop music in all forms. It was all of, like you say, like the late 70s type of stuff, and processed through the idea of like modern times. I mean, they came out of Beatnik Beach. Have you heard the Beatnik Beach record?
I know of the band because of the history, but I never actually no, I do remember going like out of my way trying to find what that sounded like and being like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's like, but I mean, that was already Andy and Roger working together.
The sound, yeah, you can totally hear it. You can see it here. Yeah, they were definitely they were just like, let's blow this pop stand and do our own thing, and just like they went off and did it for real.
Yeah, I mean, those two and Jason Faulkner, just there's so much brilliance in their writing, and again, another situation where I've just like kind of tried to trace all of them since then. I mean, Jason Faulkner's solo records are amazing, and all the different things Roger Manning has done, and then like Andy's definitely been a little bit more off on his own thing, but I mean, there was a group he produced, like a Japanese group called Puffy Amiyumi. Who, I mean, that stuff is just like listening to Jellyfish. I mean, it's just so cool.
It's anime Jellyfish.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I mean, just brilliant songwriters, and the Grays record too, which leads into what's his name, John Bryan, who's another
behind the
genius,
scenes beast,
genius in and of himself. He continues to play out here at Largo monthly. Now I just started doing it again, and I mean for years, I would drag anybody who would go with me to go see him, because I mean he's just like another, like, can play every instrument, picks up guitar, picks up keyboard, drums, like everything is just blows my mind.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, he was also able to translate the sort of like in the sort of late 80s to kind of keep the sound of instruments organic but still sound new.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the stuff, like, all the like Fiona Apple and the stuff from like Amy Mann and the soundtrack stuff that he did. And it's just like, you can hear all the instruments and it sounds all very analog, but it doesn't sound necessarily like old. It sounds like something new, like of the time. It
sounds current, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Man, we can talk about Jellyfish forever, to be honest, man.
Oh, man. I remember us talking a while ago about wanting to do like a tribute show with them, and now there's a band that's doing it.
That's right. On the road.
Liberatarians.
Yeah,
man. I wrote to them a while ago and was like, come to LA. Come on, man. Come to LA.
I did the same thing, and they were just like, get us a show in LA.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah. We'll open up for you.
We'll play the Grays and all the Imperial Drag and all that stuff.
Hell yeah.
I remember like when I got that record, like when the CD came out, and it was just like there's a bunch of friends of mine and this crew from Hartford that basically we just all love music together, whatever, you know. We would shoplift records, whatever, like this is cassettes and whatever, just because we were just like, what, this is a Queen record? And it's just like we were all just inner city kids, just like, you know, different backgrounds and, you know, whatever, little hippie white kid, you know, a jazz kid, black kid, and the, you know, Puerto Rican kid who liked metal, and there's me, whatever. And it's like all these, you know, we were all just like high school kids getting in trouble, right, and just doing things. But we loved listening to things together, and just like, you know, and I remember even hanging out with these same people, because we were so in love with that first record, that when we listened to the second album, it was so divisive, because like half the crew wanted to hear like the nice, like softer stuff, like that's like, you know, just not as like sharply produced as Split Milk is. Like Split Milk is like a fucking rock record. Like it's just their sound. I mean, it couldn't have gone even bigger, but they went huge.
Oh yeah,
you know. And I just remember listening to that in the car, because it's like we put on and it's like Hush, right? It starts with go to sleep, it's just like we're like what. Ooh, and whatever, and it's like we had just listened to a Prince record, his first record called For You, I think it's called, Prince's for. He starts the same way with like weird like vocal, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't start it. Maybe it's like beginning side B. I don't know. But anyway, it was just like we were just like, oh my god, that's just like Prince. We did whatever. We're like, and then it's like,
yeah. It's so Queen though.
Oh my god.
It's so Queen. Like right from the vocal. Yeah.
But it's like so also. It's like if Paul McCartney wasn't Queen.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's like I always say, they're the mixture of Beatles and Queen, you know. But
and then they have like a weird. Also, there's like I hear a lot of Who in them sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like the sort of like the Who, the sort of the ambitious side of the Who, where it's like the more melodic when they would do this sort of like, whatever, man. We're going off track again.
I mean, you bring up the Who. I mean, you know, as bonus whatever. I mean, Pete Townsend to me is just another one of the most brilliant songwriters ever, and somebody else who was breaking new ground with music all the time. Yeah. I mean, I read his autobiography, and you know, and he talks about like building studios, and you know, and the keyboards he was using, and all these different things.
I remember there was like this whole period of time when they bought a theater, and they were
writing and
recording live with people coming in and out, like audience people. They were just like, this is our studio, it's a stage. And
yeah.
and it's like they did that for a year, and I can't remember what album it was, but I was just like,
well, that was the Lifehouse project. He was trying to do. He was trying to do Lifehouse, and like
that became "Who Are You?" Right, the songs came.
Became Who's Next?
Who's next? Who's next?
Yeah,
Who's next?
But I mean, his concept was so grand that like not enough people got it at the time. But I mean, he was talking about the internet long before the internet existed.
Yeah.
The like grid life thing that he was talking about. I mean, he had that vision long before that existed. I mean, just brilliant minds.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go off track.
All right, so number 8, Geek USA, Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah. When I was a kid at this time period, a lot of basically everything I was listening to was not modern. I was listening to prog rock. I was listening to even the pop stuff I was listening to. I was listening to Billy Joel. I was listening to like stuff that started in the 70s or the 60s. When I was even when I was a kid, I was just like, this modern music, like it doesn't compare to the stuff that happened 20 years ago, whatever. And I had a friend who was a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan and was like, you've got to sit down and listen to this record. And I think the only thing that I knew offhand from them at that point was Today, the song Today.
Okay,
yeah. And which I love that song now. But at the time, thinking strictly as a drummer, I was just like, that's that song where he keeps going. And he's like, no, you gotta listen to this record, listen to this drummer. And he sat me down and he put Geek USA on, and I was like, oh, damn, like, that song like checked all sorts of boxes for me, with the structure being very kind of like proggy, and I realized what an amazing drummer Jimmy Chamberlin is. Jimmy Chamberlin became my favorite, modern rock drummer, still is to this day. I mean, he's the guy that like took, look him up. I mean, he's influenced by all the fusion greats of the 70s. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal drummer. but then it kind of exposed me to the whole band and how the whole band was playing all sorts of crazy music and all sorts of dynamic music. So yeah, that I think that song kind of like took me into current times and music at that time. Made me realize that there were bands that were like still doing things that were incredible musically.
Did you ever hear the song that it came out of, Suicide Kiss?
No.
So it was like they changed an older song that they had called Suicide Kiss. That's what became Geek USA.
Oh really? Wow. I don't know. Is there a demo of that out there?
There is a demo, and one of those he released it when he was doing, like, he had like an internet club for a while that he was like releasing demos and stuff and recordings.
Yeah.
And I know that it probably popped up in like one of those kind of off compilations and stuff. But
oh, cool! I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I mean, I love the whole band, and Siamese Dream is amazing. When Melancholy came out, Joel actually sat me down and was like, he's like, I'm gonna make you a tape of this. You listen to this record.
Yeah, I got it the day it came out too. It was just like,
when that came out, I was
double
like,
record.
I was like, okay, I'm sold. I get it. But
it was great. I remember that day too. It's like there's a good day. But we are record retail lifers, so
yeah.
we have that added benefit that we get to hear things sometimes before they even come out.
It's true.
Like demo, like advanced copies or whatever. And I remember back in the day, discovering the first album, Smashing Pumpkins.
Gish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking, ooh, there's something about the. It was different, because at the time, there was already Nirvana, there was Mudhoney, there was like the sort of idea of this sort of even Soundgarden, which I think that was the closest thing that they sounded to me like at the time.
Yeah.
It was almost like unpolished compared to what they had already sounded like on their first record.
Yeah.
And it was just like very, but they had a sound, and
I remember when my friends who loved Smashing Pumpkins, they would play Gish, and my first impression of it was just like, it's so bass heavy. Why is it so bass heavy? Like, the bass is so like, and I say it lovingly now because now I love that record, and like once I finally got it, I went back and listened to those songs, and and again, my love for Jimmy Chamberlin, you listen to Window Pane, the end of Window Pane, where he does this roll thing.
Yeah, it's funny because he kind of like always this is gonna sound like off, and it's probably not gonna even make sense to you as a drummer. You'd be like, nah, he sounds nothing like that. He always reminded me of Jimi Hendrix's drummer,
Mitch Mitchell. Yeah,
Mitch Mitchell. Like he had,
I can see that.
Sort of
yeah,
like more of a looseness, kind of like, but hard hitting Mitch Mitchell.
100%. I mean, I get that because like I think Mitch is like a jazzy drummer, and Jimmy's definitely comes from like, I know he loved Tony Williams, definitely jazzy fusiony. I mean, he's got a single stroke roll that'll just blow your damn mind. He's got his own project, the Jimmy Chamberlin Complex, that I got to see a couple times out here, which is straight like jazz fusion type stuff, and it's just phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, I credit my friend in the Smashing Pumpkins that kind of like brought me to current music at the time. I mean, I was an old man then, like I say, saying that like there's nothing good in modern music, like all this stuff.
You grunge kids.
I was proven wrong, but
do you, just to kind of do an alternate thing, do you remember ever or recall something where somebody sat you down and said, you got to listen to this, and you're like, no? Like after listening to it, you're like, it's okay.
Oh man, I mean, I'm sure that's happened. I'm 100% sure that's happened. Can I think of one right now?
Without offending anybody.
Well, I will say this. I had friends who were fans of certain bands back in the day that I didn't get and still don't get. I had friends who were big into the Smiths. And I know that the Smiths and the Cure always get mentioned in the same sentence, and I don't see that at all. Sorry, but
hot take.
It's I mean, I think Johnny Marr is awesome, but yeah, like I just never got Morrissey. It's just a personal thing. I don't, I will say this again, and like, feel free to troll me on the internet, but I always thought that his lyrics were like a joke that I didn't get.
Yeah.
Like I just thought that like he was saying silly things, and like it didn't. I don't know. It didn't hit me. And I know that like music is 100% subjective. It all comes from your own personal experience. Talking about my dad again, my dad used to say sometimes that, there's good music and bad music. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck you mean by that. Like there's music that you understand, there's music that makes you feel, and there's music that doesn't. And like that is completely individual.
Yeah.
So I can't bring myself to say that. But yeah, I guess to answer your question again, the Smiths are one that like, I definitely had friends who were like, you got to listen to The Queen is Dead. And I did. And I was like, all right, Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Grateful Dead's another one where I was, you know, like I have friends to this day, you know, who keep trying to get me to, and I, you know,
I've come around to both bands a little bit. I mean, to both quite a bit, but still not like to the point where I'm like buying all their records. Or anything, you know, for me, the Smiths was something I just always remember it. Like in high school, it was something that, you know, that, and this is gonna sound so like dumb and whatever, but I just remember like cool girls liking it and me going like, I better listen to this if I want to be with the cool girl. Like,
right.
hey, look, I know about the Smiths. Look, hey, I like this. And I was just like, I don't get it at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And in fact, what happened is that when they broke up, I kind of dug some of the solo Morrissey stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, well, maybe I should go back and listen to it. Never did. Until I moved to LA. And one of my first... the first party I ever went to in LA was like a culture shock. Like the first weekend I was in Los Angeles. The first day I was in LA, I auditioned, or like I reached out to a bunch of bands that had things in the recycler back in the day.
Yeah.
Old timers. There's a newspaper that had like a weekly thing that had ads and stuff. But they had a thing, whatever, bunch of bands asking for. I found one. It was like a Latin rock band, and. Whatever, they said, you know, just come and pick up the tape. We don't audition. Just if you like the tape, you know, reach out to us again. Yeah. And I did. And I said, I really dig it. Whatever, blah blah. And they said, well, you know, 2 of the guys in the band are playing a private party in Hacienda Heights or whatever. And I'm like, it was my first day in LA. I'm just like, Hacienda. It was like whatever. It was like another. It felt like a million hours away, but it was only like a 40-minute drive. Went to this party, and it was like in the middle of like. You know, it was Hacienda Heights. It was cool, whatever. But, you know, there were like low riders in the street. I'm like, this is a culture shock for me. I'm like, whoa, what? This is crazy. See, I've only seen this in movies and blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm Latino, so I'm like, it's not like I'm like, oh my god, this is. It was just kind of a different thing, and you know, cats with the like buttoned up shirt, shaved heads, and bandanas and whatever. I'm just like, whoa. And I knew that these guys played rock, so I was just like. Okay, whatever. They're playing a backyard party. I'm like, oh, whatever. Show up. Yeah. Show up, and it's the same thing. It's just like it seemed like a, you know, like a Dr. Dre video or something. It was all kind of crazy, whatever. Yeah. And I'll never forget this. I'm in the kitchen. People, it's packed, whatever. I'm getting a drink, and I hear in the backyard I had missed the band. They'd stopped playing. I missed their last song, so I just went to go get a drink. And the DJ, some guy was like, topped on a mic, and he was just like. All right, you motherfuckers, you ready to get down? We're gonna go crazy right now. It's gonna blow up, blah blah blah. It's just like they had the fucking sounds. And I was like, what the hell? And I'm just like, okay, what's gonna happen? What are they gonna play? And it's just like it's gonna fucking be like, you know, whatever, Tupac or something. I don't know, whatever. It was that era, and it was like How Soon Is Now.
Oh yeah.
And it's like. The fucking backyard just fucking got like everyone went into the backyard, cats like you know cholos and all whatever. I was just like everyone's like, I'm just like I am an East Coast kid. My mind is like going,
yeah,
you know, and that's when I knew I was gonna stay in LA. But that was just like for me that was like a big. That's a. Man, I thank you, Morrissey and Johnny Marr.
I mean, musically, that song is amazing. I kept thinking, like, the entire time you're telling that story, I'm like, what song is it going to be? What song is it going to play? And like, all right, you motherfuckers, you ready to go? Girlfriend in a coma, oh no. I was like,
it's just
what
like,
the
no,
fuck?
because I was expecting like this heavy beat or something, like, you know, whatever, and it's like, and I'm like, what? And it's like dance floor is empty within seconds, packed, and everyone's just like, you know,
yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, man.
But that's the power of this stuff, and you know,
it definitely hits a lot of people for sure. You know, it just didn't hit me.
So glad I asked that. So now we're at song number 9.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On my greatest hits, on your greatest hits here. And when I asked you to do this, I kind of expected a few things. in advance. I knew that there would be a prog rock element, and I also suspected that there would be an Elliott Smith song, mainly because we've never had a conversation about Elliott Smith or what he means to you. But I've heard you talk to 2 other people on different occasions about Elliott Smith. And I was just like, damn, this motherfucker likes Elliott. So, waltz number 1 off of EXO. Why this song? Why Elliott Smith?
I mean, this...
And last thing I'm going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
My greatest hits, this podcast, it's you're presenting like a mixtape for me of these songs, and inadvertently the order that you put them in, even though you didn't know that I was asking you to do that specifically, to me it plays off as a mixtape you made especially for me to find out more about you. And the order of these songs I found was really nice. Like, it was kind of paced in a way that let me see certain things. And I love that this is the second to last song. There's like something about that's like really kind of telling.
It's I mean, the list I made was semi chronological as far as the things that I discovered, but like Elliott, I can't claim that like I knew of him right from the beginning of his career, but when I did kind of find his work, the thing about Elliott Smith is that his work is so intimate, it's so personal, that it's like I almost don't want to talk about him. It's really like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's like, if you know,
yeah.
And if you don't know, I don't want to hear about it. Like if you don't get it, like, go over there. Like, it's so personal. You know what I mean? Like, it's so, like, he's just like, it's like almost like thoughts from my own brain coming out, in a much more, eloquent way, and then, he's taking thoughts and experiences that are, in some ways very sad, in some ways very crude, speaking of addiction and loss and longing and all that type of stuff, but he's wrapping it in these unbelievably beautiful chords and words. He's taking so many things that are tragic and making these beautiful compositions out of them. There's just something about that. Like, it's almost hard to put into words, that idea of that he's taking things that are, almost kind of like dirty and gross sometimes, and wrapping them in these like amazing, beautiful like voicings on guitar, like these jazzy, I know that anybody who knows him knows that like he was an incredible guitar player, but yeah, there's just something about that idea of like taking things that are kind of, when you're at the worst in your life, and turning that into something so beautiful. It's just like, it's such an intimate experience that like, it's like you either get it and and if you don't know and you don't have anything good to say about it, just like go over there. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I get it. I get it 100%. I mean, I have like 3 specific things to say about that. Like,
okay.
One of them is like, I came to LA in the late 90s at a time when he was kind of in the circuit. Like he was.
Did you see him?
I saw him once.
Oh my God!
And I want to say it was at El Cid.
Okay.
In Hollywood. I want to say that. I don't remember exactly where it was. But it was one of those things that I saw him, and it was after he had already kind of achieved some sort of notoriety, and he like basically came back to came and played like another small joint, whatever, and people were just like, oh my God, whatever, we gotta go see him. My thing to him, it was just like, it was one of those things to me. It's like if something's too overhyped, I'm instantly allergic to it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even, whatever. I'm like, no, until I heard his voice. Yeah. It was one of those things that I had heard things just in a distance. The second I sat down and listened to him, it was just kind of like somebody said, hey man, try heroin for the first time. I was just like, nah man. And I was like, it's like, totally. Wait a minute. And the way I describe his music or his songs, to me it's like there's two things that I describe, and one of them is kind of morbid and would probably hurts people mentally because it's delicate. But I'll say the nice one first. It's like if you ever wanted to tell yourself a secret.
Yeah.
Like how like somebody tells you, it's like if you ever like that, it's like listening to his songs is actually like you giving yourself the gift of you telling yourself a secret.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that.
You know what I mean? It's like it's a whisper, but it's such a fucking intense and deep emotion.
Yes.
But it's just like, hey, it's just like that's how to me his songs feel like
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the most messed up times, and I'm not saying that they correlate to actual times when this has happened, but I feel like his when you're at your darkest moments and sometimes whatever holds you back from doing something stupid or doing something extreme, it could be just a thought or somebody that comes to mind or whatever, and sometimes if it's ever a voice, it's his voice. It's that sort of like a plea, like I understand
right
exactly where you are.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's like an angel telling you, like, hey, like it's okay to feel this.
I love that. I love that. You put it much more eloquently than I did. I mean, that's exactly that's exactly what it is, and I guess that's why I say it's like you either understand that or you don't. Yeah. And it's because that's so intimate, because that's so personal, it's like you either understand that, or if you have criticism, then you don't get it. You don't get it. Go stand over there. Like that's how I feel about Elliot, and that's how I think most people feel about Elliot.
I think it's also the delivery system. At the time, it was there seemed to be like a popularity of like people, male singers who were like soft voiced and a little whatever. I think of like Jack Johnson or whatever, like stuff like that. And I was kind of like allergic to that. Like just like I need my singers who can sing or like or can be like gruff or whatever. Like I don't hey kind of thing. But it's like there's a lot of talk and like people talk about self-improvement and all this stuff and about like how can you do better in life and whatever. They always talk about alignment, like you have to get aligned with the right energy. And I find that his voice is always like aligned. It's like singing like the perfect, it's like where the angel voice is. It's like I don't know how he does that, and especially knowing the darkness behind it,
right?
But it's like I've never ever whatever. I mean, I think of him and I think of like in a weird way, it doesn't sound like him at all, but I think of Nick Drake, I think of Syd Barrett, I think of like cats who was just like just hitting some deeper subconscious thing that it was just like, I don't know that
it doesn't always have to be a scream.
exactly.
That's the thing, is that, like, you know, pain doesn't always have to be a scream. You know, there's people that can express the pain and the darkness in such a beautiful way. Yeah. I mean, you know, and also that the fact that, like, darkness doesn't always have to be so basic and gritty. You know, like, it's one of the things that I find amazing with him, is the fact that, you know, there's incredible talent and beauty in what he's playing. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, it's why you've
heard the phrase darkness. There's darkness and light.
Yeah,
he's like the epitome of that.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, it's why you don't hear people covering his songs a lot, is because the shit that he's playing is so difficult.
Yeah.
You know, there's incredible talent and complexity, you know, in what he's doing, and, you know, and I mean, there's something to be said about that, you know, the complexity and darkness, you know, as well as light. So
it's also it's like his the elements of what makes him are not easily you can't easily like cut it apart and have like, oh, and this is this part, and this is like his guitar playing, these are his vocals, his stuff is so like this. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, the whole thing with people who do covers of his songs or whatever, it's like, it's kind of you know, and I don't want to mean this in any like negative way about his songs. Mm-hmm. It's almost like nobody else can do them.
I feel that way 100%.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's not like something like, I feel like I've sung strong theories about songs, like a great song, anybody can do it, and it's hard to make it be like horrible kind of thing.
Right.
The opposite is like he just embodies what the songs are so much, and it's like so much of him through it.
Absolutely.
That it's like they're like that. If you look on a piece of paper, you see the chords or whatever, you'd be like, yeah, I don't get it. You know, or whatever, and it's like you hear him. It's like whatever. I was just like when you walked, Nick walked in, and I've been going through all the songs, and he walked in on my 7th listen of Waltz, and I was completely just. One thing I forgot about that, it's a fucking piano song.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and a lot of his stuff is just like the sort of the more of the guitar, the acoustic thing,
right?
You know, and this song was
but
just
you
like,
could play piano just as amazing as playing guitar too. So
that's what makes me think it's like, oh, you know, like we lost him too soon. Like he could have been doing like even bigger, more orchestral things, like big, yeah. You know, just to hear that sort of like. You know, the sort of like the I don't know, so the sort of the city or the sort of a kingdom that is an entire orchestra.
Yeah. With
this one soul light in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to hear that. I mean, I know that there were some things that he released that had like more things to it, but like this one, but it's still kind of
he's the only artist that you know, even when it comes to somebody else playing his music, like, my opinion is don't touch it. Don't let it be. Like, seriously though, like he's the only artist that,
he's the only artist too that, by the way, like I've got the open mic happens every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Once every 6 months, or once every like 4 or 5 months, somebody will cover an Elliott Smith song.
Yeah.
I don't recognize it. I won't fucking recognize it. And it's like I won't, like, it'd be like, oh, okay, you know. There's like 2 or 3 songs that were played on, you know, the indie radio stations in town, and stuff that was on soundtracks that were kind of like more familiar stuff, and but in general, it's like when I hear somebody else play it, it's like another language. I don't recognize this song at all. Yeah, because I don't recognize his stuff by. Frankly, by the way it sounds. It's just
because
by the
they're
way
probably
it
not
feels.
playing it the way he did.
Yeah.
That's exactly the thing, is that like he's doing such like intricate things, is that like, you know, you can play his songs, you know,
play it
but
like a fucking harp.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like
It's true. It's true. I mean, just such a uniquely amazing artist.
And now we're at the end of the mixtape that is my greatest hits of Nick Libertore, and we are at Elemental P, the song 20 Years.
Yeah. Yeah, a song that that I wrote, that his it's one of the very first songs that I wrote. And I mean, I'm certainly known mainly as a drummer, but I've messed around for a while writing songs, and you know, Elemental P gave me a chance to put some of those out into the world, and this is one of them that we recorded for a record called "The Sound That Thursday Built," which is still available out there.
What's the meaning behind that? The sounds that Thursday built.
The name of the record. So that came out of so we were the house band at this place out here called Unknown Theater for quite a while, and we were the house band on Thursday nights, and Unknown Theater and Chris Kovacs, the person that ran Unknown Theater, kind of gave us the opportunity to play and kind of build our crowd, and build kind of like what we were doing as a band at the time. And this was definitely one of the songs that we played all the time. And I wrote this song as a duet, and there's been lots of different versions of this song recorded. I did one with Alicia from City by Sea and Anodyne, and I've had a lot of different incredible artists sing it with me. My wife, Michelle McGregor, has sung it at your open mic night. This one in particular on the record was sung by Sydney Robinson, who was an amazing singer. I haven't seen much of her recently. Like, I hope she's still out there performing. But she was another performer at Unknown Theater at the time, and you know, I asked if she would be a part of this record when we were recording, and luckily she said yes. But yeah, I mean, this song has existed for quite a long time, and like Joel actually joked with me about like doing something called, you know, 20 years of 20 years when it hit the 20-year mark. I mean, it's a pretty old song at this point, but it's continued to evolve in the way that it's done. So you know, this is, you know, I guess.
What is the song about? I mean, what inspired you to write it?
It was a I guess kind of a breakup song of sorts. Kind of the idea of I wrote it when I was 20 years old, and somebody who I was with at that time, and you know, there's a,
you know who you are.
there's a line called, you know, we seem to have found ourselves with 20 years too late. You know, it's kind of the idea of you know, we both kind of want different things, and the realization of that. But it was the first thing that I wrote where, like, you know, I could kind of like put both perspectives in, at least vocally, which I thought was kind of cool.
It's a nice surprise to hear that. Like I was listening to the song and I'm just like, okay, cool. And then, you know, I really dig it. It's really beautiful. And she comes in, and then it's like somebody opened a door, and like a different light comes in. And
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, like I say, I mean, I was very happy that she said yes to doing that, because, you know, it definitely takes the song to a different level. You know, and I've been really, really blessed to do the song with a lot of different amazing vocalists. You know, I did it with Aaron.
Nice.
At one of the open mics. So, I mean, that was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I've messed around with writing songs for a long time. You know, but as I say, I'm much more of a drummer than a guitar player that I'll ever be.
Yeah.
But I finally started working on a record of my own. So, you know, I'm working on some new material that hopefully will come out at the end of the year. You know, and kind of put a new light on me as far as what I do musically. So, you know, this you know, until the new stuff comes out, is kind of probably the thing that I'm most proud of that I've written personally.
It's a beautiful song, and I think that it still holds today. You know, your 20-year-old self would be shocked and surprised and proud and happy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, that writing songs is definitely a thing that, like, to me is completely, you know, the ability to do that is otherworldly to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, playing drums is a thing that I've done for so long. It's a thing that I've practiced and worked at, and, you know, that, like, I can you know, I can talk more about what I'm doing when I'm doing it, but as far as writing songs, putting chords together, you know, finding melodies, all that type of stuff, you know, like, I don't have any formal teaching behind that, you know, so
just an entire lifetime of listening to music.
Yeah. It's true. It's
like,
true.
It's like when people say, like,
I always look at it.
Oh, I know nothing about music. It's like saying you've read like a gazillion books. It's like you might have not gone to college for it, but you kind of did the work. So it's like,
well,
you know,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
I appreciate that, because, yeah, I mean, I always look at it as that, like, I'm not an experienced guitar player.
Let me take it back.
Yeah.
Listening is one thing, but you played a lot of music in your life, a lot of different kinds of music, and it's
true.
like a different part of your brain than just like taking it in. It's like when you have to learn it to play, you understand the songs differently. You see the songs, not to say in the same exact light as this songwriter, producer, or whatever intended. You see them in a way that, like, how they work, or how they work for you, and it's a different part of your brain and heart than just letting the emotion or the feeling of it hit you. It's like when you have to create that feeling, you understand. Oh, I get what this song is, or I understand, you know, or at least you get a little closer to that, and that's our school.
Yeah. Yeah,
we got
true.
PhDs, baby.
It's true. It's true. Look at all this stuff. These are our books right here.
All from a library that I have not returned them to.
Yeah.
Overdue fees. Well, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for being a part of this. This is the inaugural, the very first episode of My Greatest Hits.
Thank you for having me. This is super fun. Super fun.
Thank you. Thank you for like. This will probably be officially the longest one I ever do, but I'll make sure that all these songs are available for people to listen to, and I'll place it somewhere online so people can check it out. And it will be wherever this is. The information will be wherever this is, wherever this lives. Thank you again, man. Thank you for sharing all this beautiful music and your stories from your life.
Thank you for having me. Very much appreciate it. And thank you for watching.
See you in the next one.